Hi there, I'm Peter Millard and this is 10 Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes in the workshop is never 10 minutes wasted. In the workshop this week, I've got a little craft project for you. It's actually a commission. Somebody's asked me to make them a small asymmetric mirror frame, and that's coming right up after the jingle. Yeah, so there's quite a lot going on at the minute, and I'm just trying to, before all that kind of gets into the swing of things, I'm just going to rattle through a couple of quick jobs, and this is one of them that I've been hanging around for a while. I've got a friend of mine who recommends me for all kinds of things that I don't really do, I don't really want to do, but this is one of them. And it's actually going to turn out quite interesting. It's an asymmetric mirror, and it's based on a mirror that the client, the lady, has seen. I think her daughter's got one, or her husband or something. And she wants one for herself, and it actually would make, this is going to be a mirror, but it could actually be a picture frame. So it's like a collection of little picture frames all in one cohesive sort of lump, and it's all sort of a bit higgledy-pig and asymmetric and unbalanced, and if they're actually quite hard to design if you've ever tried to do one of these. What I always fall back on if I get stuck are the paintings of Mondrian, because he was fantastic for getting proportion and balance between sort of squares and rectangles and shape together. And of course out of copyright now as well, so always good to go back to his paintings just to get an idea of proportion. And this is actually a copy of something that the client's already got, or her daughter has. But basically we start, as we do with all these things, is just drawing it out full size, and I'll do that now just on a piece of lining paper. With the paper rolled out flat and taped up, it's just a question of transferring my scale drawing to actual size, taking care to keep everything square and true and as close to the actual dimensions as possible. With the drawing completed, we can cut out this shape and mount it to our 12mm birch ply backing board with spray glue. Then cut out the shape with the track saw, and finally clean up the inside corners on the little bandsaw. Channeling my inner Jimmy DiResta with that one. So the stuff I'm using for the framing is called, for the framework, we call this parting bead. It's designed to go between sash windows, you might call them double hung, you know the type of thing I mean, I'm sure. And this basically sits between the upper and the lower windows and literally keeps them apart. It's a very standard profile, widely available here. And what I want is for it to sit all the way around, but of course it's also got to be cut so that it doesn't come up. I want this to be continuous, so it's a bit of a fiddle. It's a bit of a nuisance, but there we are. It's not the end of the world. Easy enough to do, I think, but it's just a bit of a fiddle to cut it down. But let's give it a whirl, and we'll give our bandsaw a bit of a workout today, I think. With the first piece laid against the backing board, I can mark out where the centre section needs to be cut away. Then square up these marks on each side before heading over to the bandsaw to cut this section out. And yes, thank you for noticing my poor bandsaw technique and ill-placed guides, yet somehow the job was still done. Well, certainly wouldn't have been able to do that without my cheap and cheerful little bandsaw. That is pretty fantastic. So one of the things I want to do here is just, I'm going to pin these down as we go, but I'm just going to use some super fine pins to keep everything in place. Because this is going to be stained, not painted, you've got to be a little bit more careful about getting glue on the surfaces, which is a bit of a drag, really. Use a glue spreader, that will probably help. With a little dab of glue and a few well-placed pins, we can start to build up the frames one length at a time. First cutting the profile roughly to length of the handsaw and using the backing board to mark up the depth of the cutaway. Now I know I should be sort of mitering these little joins in, but to be honest, life's too short and they're going to be covered by mirror anyway, so I'm not too fussed about that. I'm just sort of nibbling away and rounding flush the edges, but putting little miters in on all the external corners. So we'll do one on here and an external, and we'll figure that out as we go. I cut a clean square end at the miter saw, then flip the piece and make another cut that doesn't quite fully reach to the rounded edge. Then over at the bandsaw I use this second cut as a guide to reach almost to the top of the bead before rounding off the cut and nibbling away with the bandsaw blade to create the curve. At the backing board I mark the section that needs to be cut away, then make these cuts at the bandsaw. With this section offered up, I can mark the length, then make the external miter back at the miter saw. Then we can simply glue and pin the piece in place, repeating the process all around the frame until complete. And once the adhesive is set, the frame exteriors get a thorough sanding. So just a little bit of hand sanding here. I'm just smoothing out with the edges, but as I say, the proper way to do this would be to miter them. But to be honest, this way works just as well for this type of application, and it's probably just as strong, if not stronger, because these are solid pieces, otherwise you'd have a miter cut into them. So this is just to finish up around the joins a little bit. And this is going to be covered with quite a thick sort of lacquer, a stained lacquer. And I think I've just got an email to tell me what colour the client's chosen. But basically I'm expecting that to fill any of these little nail holes and otherwise tiny blemishes. Tiny blemishes. So the client's gone for quite a dark brown, sort of mahogany stain. It's a quick drying varnish with a little bit of colour in it. We'll normally do 2 or 3 coats of that, and we'll do that all the way around, just to sort of make it look a little bit tighter, a little bit nicer, and also fill in all the little pinholes and any odd little gaps. Working methodically with a narrow brush, I start to apply the varnish. I know what you're thinking. It's all looking a bit orange, and it does, but the second and third coats do tone it down quite a long way. First coat of stain or lacquer varnish like this is always a bit sudden. So, first coat on, we can let that dry and get on with the next one. Once dry, the frame gets a light sanding or denibbing before the second coat of varnish is applied. And finally the third coat. So that is the third coat on, and I think that'll do us. It's looking pretty good. I'm not looking for a perfect even coat. I want it to be a little bit sort of patchy, make it look a little bit older. So yeah, I think that's just pretty much done. We'll let that dry, have another look at it, but pretty nice. What you have to watch out for this is the little drips and dribbles, because once they dry there's not a lot you can do other than sand everything back, but I think overall it's looking quite nice. And all those little joins of things have filled in, the little pinholes on the edges here. They're all filled in nicely, so good. I need to stop fiddling with it. Yes, that's it, good enough. Absolutely perfect. Apart from that little bit there that needs a smidge more. Good. Yeah. So that's not looking too bad, is it? 3 coats of varnish later. A little bit of light rubbing down between each one. And to make life that little bit easier for our glazier, I've made little templates for each of the holes. Not that they're not perfectly square or anything, you understand. Just that if he's got something to work to, then it makes his life a little bit easier, and should end up costing a little bit less. With the mirror all done, we can apply the finishing touch of some self-adhesive felt over the backing board, and then fit a pair of simple brass picture rings with wire for hanging. So finally, there we are, our little picture frame, all ready to hang. Fancy red felt backing, brass picture hangers. I don't think it looks too bad. It's grown on me, this. Wasn't really sure about it when it was first proposed, but yeah, looking nice. So all we're going to do now is get around to the clients and get it hung on a wall. Well, in this terrible lighting in a very echoey room, that's it for this week's little project. It's a nice little mirror frame. It sits in very well with the rest of the decor in this smallest room in the house in South London. I hope you've enjoyed this little project. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Do share it amongst your friends, and please do consider subscribing. Then you'll be notified whenever I put up something new. But in the meantime, this is me saying goodbye from somebody's toilet in South London, and I'll see you next time. Take care.